Well, I ended up 2003 town car. You guys know that that had a battery issue. Came in here, surging, lights surging. When the blower motor's on, it was changing speeds with the surge because it wasn't able to supply enough power. This PCM right here has drivers in it that were screwed up. So I had to order a new PCM. I ordered a new PCM for it, programmed everything, programmed 2 keys for it, got it up and rolling, and all of a sudden the regulator would turn on and it would start to come up to 14 volts and then it would drop down out of nowhere. And then it would turn on and then it would start to drop down to 14 volts or it dropped down to 12 volts. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I'm about to smoke this new PCM. It's really loading up the circuit. And I come up here and I'm looking and I seen a light mist of smoke come off of these wires right here. The Gen Mon wire, the Gen Con wire, and the 12 volt wire that monitors the circuit from the fuse box. I immediately shut it off and knew what was going on. The OE PCMs, this is an OE remanufactured brand new from the Ford dealer PCM. And mind you, I'm a Ford tech and I work at a Ford dealer. This is why I don't like using Ford alternators from 2003 to 2006, 2007. I don't like using any Ford alternators on any of those cars that are remans. And here's the reason why. These regulators are not programmed correctly, and a lot of the ones that are out there on the market, they just do not work correctly. And what ends up happening is the regulators that are in here, the PCM doesn't know how to control them, and it will become erratic. It will be all over the place trying to control the voltage coming out of this alternator. I knew the alternator itself was good on the supply side because I could unplug the connector and it would sit right at 13.6, 13.7 volts, no problem. As soon as you would plug the control connector back in, this thing would start going wacky. And what ended up happening is, not only did he buy this alternator, there's another alternator in the trunk that's brand new OE from the dealer. Here's another OE one from the dealer right here. Reman from the dealer was doing the same exact thing. Now, here's the problem with that. Both of those OE alternators were causing this charging issue in this vehicle. The lights were fluttering, the controls on the dash were fluttering, the lights, everything was fluttering. The engine was really having a hard time keeping up RPM, down RPM, up RPM, down RPM, because of the monitor and the controls coming from the PCM, and it ended up smoking the drivers in the PCM. I put the new computer in here and programmed everything today, and it came online and it started to charge way better than the other one would, the other PCM. Why? Because the drivers were screwed up in it. So I'm trying to think to myself, I know what's going on. I'm about to smoke the drivers in this new computer. I'm about to burn this new computer up just like the old one got burned up with the OE remanufactured alternators right from the Ford dealer. Why? Remember that story I told you guys back in 2016? I was working on a Ford 500 that came in 2004. I went through 3 OE remanned Ford alternators. The charge light would never turn off. I got a Ford hotline involved. They contacted me and they were walking me through the process after the second alternator. They sent me a third new one, or new OE reman one from them. Still didn't work. And they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to supply you a Delphi. We're going to send you a Delphi one and a new connector. You have to flop 2 of the wires. So I flopped the 2 wires, put the new connector on. The charge light still won't go off. They said, you know what? We're going to send you another one and another one. So I went through 3 OE reman ones, would not turn the charge light off. Even though it was charging at 14 volts, still wouldn't turn the charge light off. The computer didn't like what it was seeing. And then they sent me 3 Delphi ones. Same thing happened. Then Hotline says, send us pictures of how you routed the connector. So I sent them pictures on how the harness was all spliced in and heat shrinked and everything else. And they said, no, you did everything correctly. Let us talk and let us try to figure out what the next step is going to be for this. And in the meantime, I said, to hell with this. I'm going to go down here to Autozone. I'm going to get an Autozone Gold alternator, and I'm going to put an Autozone Gold alternator in it. Why? Because it's a lifetime warranty, and I'm not dealing with remanufactured stuff, right? Or I shouldn't say remanufactured stuff. I've had really good luck with Autozone Gold alternators. So today I'm dealing with this. get the PCM in. I realized the OE alternator is going to keep causing a surging thing to happen, and it's going to smoke the drivers in this new computer, so I shut it down right away. Contacted the customer and I said, look, we need to get rid of these two OE ones that you just bought from the Ford dealer. Send them back. Let's go get an AutoZone Gold alternator and put it in here before I smoke the drivers in this new one. Let's go look and see what's going on. Lights, stable, no flickering. Interior lights, stable, no flickering. $14 volts. Everything's charging real good. Let's go in here and look on the dash. Charge light is on. Now everything's charging, but the charge light is on. We're going right back through the same thing that we were going through before. The lights have stabilized, everything's charging, but can't turn the charge light on now. Why? The way it's communicating with the charging system. So this happened to me back in 2016, the story you guys know, where I went through 7 alternators before I got a good one that would charge in an 04 Ford 500. This happened to me last year when I was putting an alternator in a GT500. I think it was like an 07 model. I had to go through 3 or 4 aftermarket alternators before I got a good one. 9 times out of 10, the Ford OE ones for some reason don't work on the mid-2000 model vehicles, specifically like the Town Car, Ford 500, some of the Mustangs. It was a really weird situation during that time, and it's still affecting us today. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the computer in this thing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the wires at all. It all comes down to the programming that's built into the regulator of the alternator. And now either I get Ford hotline involved and get engineering involved in this, or I just keep going through alternators until I get a good one and the charge light turns off. Hell, I even talked to one of the Ford techs on TikTok and now on now on YouTube, Diesel Tech Chris. I called him up last night because he has a Town Car and just ran it by him real quick. He said the same thing. He said, dude, recently I had a 7.3 come in. I had to go through 4 aftermarket alternators before I got a good one, and the charge light would turn off and it would charge right. And the same thing with our Trans Tech. He's had several back in the mid-2000s where you have to go through 4, 5, 6 different alternators just to get a good one to make the system operate correctly. It just sucks that the OE one charges at 12.2, 12.3, 12.4 volts, and the system surges constantly, and it doesn't even turn on a charge light. But the aftermarket one does charge sufficiently, but it turns on a charge light after like 5 to 10 seconds of running. This Fiasco is just, it's out of control. And unfortunately, it's the kind of the business that we're in. These are the types of things we have to deal with sometimes. And unfortunately, these faulty parts and situations end up making other parts go bad and costing the customer more money, and it's not their fault. What do you do? Good morning to you guys.